So we will go ahead and get started. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this business industry call with Dallas County Judge Jenkins. I'm David Pfaff and serve as the chairman of the board for the Greater Irving-Las Chamber of Commerce and the president of Plastronic Socket Company. Once again, Judge Jenkins, thank you for continued work on our community, keeping us healthy and safe, and following, getting this orders out and making sure we understand what's going on. So these business industry calls are very important for our folks. Please take whatever you get today from the judge and spread it out so we're all on the same page. You'll get to hear it up live and personal today. So with that, Judge Jenkins, I'll let you take it over.
Sure. So, we're seeing an increase in cases here in Dallas, and I know that has everybody concerned, and we're seeing an uptick in people dying, and that has people concerned. But I'll give you a little glimmer of hope in that. Our hospitals are moving to different metrics as the governor has requested. We're beginning to look at not just the number of cases, but also the number of ER visits, the number of hospitalizations, and the number of ICU admittances, okay? Those numbers, unfortunately, are still ticking up, but they're ticking up in a way that is consistent with the medical model that was done in early April and really didn't change much since then. What that means is we may be reaching a point where we're about to get into our plateau, our peak and our plateau. It's a little unknown because the more you have movement, and it's not just the things that are opening, but it's the feeling people have that they can go out and have more contact that comes with that, that may throw that off. But at least so far, that medical model is tracking the way that it was expected to track, or so they told me this morning, so that we would begin to see some decline by mid-May. So we can, kind of keep our fingers crossed on that. Here we are, it's May 6th, and, mid-May is, the way I count it, that's 9 days from now. So I'm hoping that turns out to be the case. We've got some help for small business. Let me tell you a little bit about that, especially since you're outside the city of Dallas. The Dallas County's put aside $5 million. It's the first tranche of money. There'll be more money for small business than this. We're getting a vendor. It'll be the same vendor for the city of Dallas, city of Dallas and the rest of the county, so that the process will be, kind of seamless depending on where you are. But with this, you can get a forgivable loan of up to $15,000. It requires that you essentially do the same things that you do in a PPP loan. You don't degrade your workforce less than a PPP percentage allows, and you pay those guys for the 10 weeks. These loans are for the people, for the small businesses that didn't get a PPP loan. Everybody on this call may have gotten their PPP loan. As we add more money to it, it may be supplemental in the future to PPP loans. But unfortunately, we still have people here in Dallas County that are small businesses that haven't gotten those loans. One other thing that I want to tell you all about, we're going to get the right people, and you may be the right people. It may be somebody from this group that ends up being able to help. But for all of our chambers, we want to put together a little Zoom webinar with some, actually, I think the right person is going to be Herb from the Small Business Administration. But to help our small businesses that don't have their PPP loan yet, or really had trouble for whatever reason getting it last time, to be ready for the next possibility to apply, to get that pre-work done if they need to, so that they can get in there and get that lifeline going. And so we're setting that up. That was one of my calls this morning with SBA and folks to really help our small businesses with that. We're going to have a variety of things that we're looking at for business that are straight up money that we'll be spending. I'm still looking at tax relief, but we're also looking to spend CARES Act money on business. Some of the things that we're looking at, and these aren't things that are on the agenda yet or have been passed. We just passed that small business loan, forgivable loan. It's a loan if you fire everybody. It's a forgivable grant if you keep your employees. Then we're looking at, for instance, partnering with DISD, Dallas County Community College District, Community Foundations of Texas, perhaps various cities on expanding broadband. Think of it this way. So, you know, even at David's company, there might be some people that are commuting from home, right? And so if that person that's commuting from home, maybe their job is sales, or maybe they answer the phone. Well, you know, when we think about answering the phone, now it's obviously, as we all know, it's no longer just pick up the phone and write down on one of those phonograms someone called David and give him the white sheet and keep the pink one. You know, those days are long gone, right? We've got voice over internet or VoIP capabilities on our phones. A lot of us have live chat where you go on and talk to our technician about what it is you want to buy or what's broken. And so if they don't have decent internet at home, it gets really hard for that person to keep their job. And so what we're finding out, and DIC's really taken a big lead on this, is you can load a 5G microcell onto a school bus. You can drive that into a neighborhood with crummy cell service. You can provide some, you know, hotspots, or maybe even we just would provide the bus and the business would provide the hotspots. And suddenly your person who has really sketchy internet has better internet than most of us do, and can keep their job in sales, in calls, and customer support, etc. So we're looking at those things as well. And we're taking ideas from business. So the person two people at the county to talk to on that, Shay Cathy, my senior policy advisor, Shay.Cathy, and that is, by the way, Cathey, Shay.Cathy at dallascounty.org. You can also email me, clay.jenkins at dallascounty.org. And then there's another person, I'm going to make sure, yeah, Charles.Reed, so the man's name, Charles.Reed, that's 2 E's, REED, at dallascounty.org. We're looking at ways to help business. We're talking to philanthropy and other businesses as well. And of course, Beth Bowman, we're going to be looking at this on the Economic Recovery Committee, and your own Beth Bowman is on that committee. So we, you know, you could also reach out to Beth and say, Beth, I've got these 7 or 8 or whatever good ideas, and we'll see what we can do with those. I'll take your questions at this point.
Great. Let's start out with the governor's orders opening up restaurants and other venues starting last Friday. Can you give us kind of a commentary on how that's been going from the county's perspective?
So what you've seen with the county, and I think you'll probably see this with the orders that continue to come out from the governor, we're going to look at those orders as they come out and his Open Texas manual. And the things that he recommends, we're going to make those requirements here in Dallas, given the height of the spread that we're dealing with. So for instance, if the governor says, I gave you this example, I think last week, movies should close every other row and should have 2 seats between each family unit. That's an idea, a request from the governor. We're making that a requirement here in Dallas County. So similarly, if I haven't seen his order, I understand it's out this morning, but I have not yet read it about, for instance, barbers, okay, and hair colorist and whatnot. If his order says that they should wear a mask, okay, then they'll have to wear a mask here in Dallas. And so, you know, how that's going, I haven't heard any huge problems with any of it. You know, I think I saw in the news, and you may have seen it too, that there were some restaurants who would not allow their employees to wear a face covering. And that's been, fixed by the orders. So beyond that, we didn't hear of any huge problems with that. We just don't know yet. The way movement works when we're all kind of bouncing around and seeing each other is, it's not like we're going to see each other on Tuesday and by Friday we're going to see a huge wave of cases, right? We're going to see each other and maybe one person in a large group gets sick. Maybe they're symptomatic, maybe they're not. And then they get two more people sick and so on and so on. And so by the time you really see any impact of a decision is, according to the scientists, is about 2 weeks later. So if you open up something on the 1st, you begin to see impact around the 15th. So we opened up restaurants on Friday, I guess. We're not going to see that for a while.
Right. And just to be clear to everybody on the phone call, the governor did open the restaurants and a few other venues, such as movie theaters, last Friday. The county came out, and I believe it was 2 days ago, Judge, came out, and the governor's recommendations are mandatory in Dallas County. So if you can go to the Dallas County website or the governor's Open Texas recommendations list, and those are mandatory in Dallas County for everybody out there, just to be clear on that. How long do you think those recommendations will be mandatory? Because we do have businesses, according to Governor Abbott yesterday, will start opening on May 18th, non-essential businesses at 25% capacity. Are we going to keep these same, as they're preparing, just to make sure the businesses on the phone call?
Yes. So I would suspect that those will likewise be related, be mandatory, and stay there for a while, because what the governor is saying is, we start off with 25% occupancy at the restaurant, and then we'll go to 50, and then we'll go to 75, and then we'll, so I don't foresee that his recommendations, which we're making requirements, would change. And if the governor says when you get to 50%, you no longer need to do something, then that would be knocked off of our requirements in all likelihood.
Okay, so we'll keep up to date with that. So, but all the businesses here really need to look at the governor's website and make sure when you're ready to open that you're following all these. We do have a question from Gary Huddleston. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, let me jump on that, Gary, but let me say one other thing. So Mark Cuban has done on our economic recovery committee, has worked to get not only the governor's recommendations, and they're on our website now. He's worked to get the American Industrial Hygiene Association to put out recommendations. None of these are requirements, recommendations for certain things. We've got hair and nail salons on there. We've got restaurants. We've got manufacturing plants, I think, today. And so those are great documents for you to look at and say, yeah, I'm doing those things. I looked at them, and there's some really thoughtful and frankly cheap ideas there, that they've come up with. So those are at dallascountycovid.org, or you can go to dallascounty.org and click on the COVID page. Go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
I'll read his question. Any update regarding some form of property tax relief for both businesses and personal?
So I've got some of you guys may know Todd Williams, who works closely with the school district, sometimes with Commit Partnership. We got Todd working on that. I'll get another update. My desire is to begin with that we push back. We look at a reappraisal as late as possible, because I believe that property values will go down. If they don't, that we do this on a float so that the property owner gets the benefit of everything, right? So if his appraisal goes, or if his reappraisal goes down, he gets the benefit of that. If by some miracle it goes up, he gets a lower number. That we freeze valuations to the extent that we can. Now, this may require the governor, that we freeze valuations on the top end, and that we put everybody on a quarterly payment plan. We're working with the schools to figure out if that has to be and others, to see if that has to be front loaded. So like if your first payment has to be 35% as opposed to 25%. And once that gets more further along with all the different agencies agreeing, then we'll try to take that back to the commissioner's court in the county and hopefully lay that out, within the cities and the school districts as well. But they're still discussing it, the CEOs and city managers and whatnot of these entities. I think it might even still be at the school. I'll check with Todd, but I know they're working. Sorry, I don't have a definitive date for you, Gary.
No worries. And just to follow up on that note, Dallas County gets most of their revenue from property taxes. How is the county looking, and what kind of toll is this taking on municipalities, counties? We know what the federal government's doing, but
oh, it's terrible. It's a tough deal. But we're just like you, right? We got to find a way to live within our means and tighten our belt and make some hard choices. So, and I do care about our county employees, and I want them, I want to help them as much as I can. Of course, we're sworn to protect and serve everyone, not just our county employees. And so we got to do what's best for the families, out there in Dallas County.
Great. And we have a question about what type of contact tracing is available for those diagnosed with COVID-19 inside assisted living centers. Is it being done at all? And this is a question from one of our listeners whose mother's in a facility that's recently been hit.
It is. That's being done. The people in the facilities are being tested. They're doing everything that they can to keep people isolated. I don't know if your mom is positive or not, but it's very hard to keep the infections down there. We do, however, have our Dallas County Health and Human Services team and our Parkland team going in to check, as well as the state has some people going in to check, and we're all trying to do our very best to keep people safe there. But it is a worsening situation, and I'm very sorry your mom's in that situation.
And kind of a follow-on question to that, you mentioned last week you'll send out and test all the residents. Is that still being done? And are these facilities getting best practices training as well?
They are getting some best practices training, and yes, the Parkland vans go out and hit nursing homes every day. Homes like, by the way, back to the question, homes like your mom, since she's got a positive case in the home, those homes are tested first. So hopefully your mom has been tested one way or the other. And if not, please contact me and let me know that hasn't happened, because the home should be doing that. But we're also going to the homes where there's not a positive case yet to make sure that we don't have an asymptomatic, because the asymptomatics are a real challenge. If I've got an asymptomatic person, they don't know they're sick, we don't know they're sick, then that person's much more likely to get others sick. And what we know, it's like an iceberg, right? The asymptomatics are at the bottom, but as they spread it, it gets up to those that you can see because of hospital admissions and sickness and, lung infections.
And Sam, if you're on, if you can ask your question, I'm not quite sure what you're asking about the PPP loan. It had something to do with your Zoom call this morning, Judge. Sam, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, how you doing, Judge Jenkins? First of all,
good.
Thanks so much for all you do every week. My Small Business Services Committee, we had a conference call yesterday, and one of the things that came up on the conference call is there are many small businesses that have received their PPP loan, and they're now wondering kind of now what? There are some specific criteria that needs to be upheld in order for the loan to be forgiven 100%. And I'm wondering, perhaps at an upcoming SBA call, if there could be some experts there to help discuss that.
Absolutely.
So
Herb and, I didn't get much sleep last night, so I'm blanking on Herb's last name. But y'all may have seen Herb. He's African-American. He runs SBA here. Anyway, so Herb, I'm hopeful will get on the call and be able to answer those questions. Also, one other thing for you to know, I was talking to Colin Allred a couple of nights ago because, and I've talked to Michael Burgess 30 minutes ago. One of the things that is not upsetting, but one of my concerns is that there are a lot of small businesses that didn't get a PPP loan. And so we talked about that, and I'm pushing for small business set aside, disadvantaged business and small business set aside, which they're telling me is impossible because the Senate won't do it. But what they are also telling me is that there will be another, in all likelihood, there will be another PPP loan program. So for instance, Sam, you got yours and it covers your payroll until whatever.
Yeah.
And when that runs out, given the situation that we're in, it's liable, there'll be another one. It might not be 10 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, it might be 6 weeks, it might be 10 weeks. So one of the things that we're going to do on that call with Herb is, and you may not need this as much since you already have one, but we're going to try to make sure that people understand how it is they go get that, when it comes up again. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Judge.
That's great. We had another question. You mentioned that the increases are in line with projections. Did those projections include an easing of the stay-at-home restrictions around this time?
No. The projections, and so that's the big unknown, right? The projections in April were that we would reach our peak by late April and early May if we continued to have the same sort of compliance and the same sort of kind of rules, if you will, that we had in most of April. They did take into account that as things go on, people become less vigilant. So some small drop in compliance, but nothing like we're seeing now. So for instance, if you looked in the morning news on Sunday, this was a statewide poll that they did on the front page. Before Governor Abbott announced that restaurants and movie theaters and other things would open, only 35% of Texans felt comfortable going to visit relatives who were not in their home. And 3 days later, or 2 days, whatever it was, later after whenever they did this poll, after he said that, that number had jumped from 35% to 52%. So 17% felt comfortable. That means most of those folks will do that, right? So that's not in his order, but it's just kind of indicative. There are going to be things that aren't, it's not just that people are going to hear it and continue their compliance, but also perhaps go to a restaurant. You may have people that say, I'm not going to go sit in some restaurant at a table where a bunch of other people have been touching all over stuff, but I will go have a barbecue with my extended family, and I will do this, I will do that. How that affects what happens, and by the way, in Dallas County, we still have our safer at home order until May 15th. And so under that order, you don't go have a lack of 6 foot distance meeting with people outside your family unit. You can go to essential businesses, reopen businesses, out to exercise at 6 foot distance. But having all your friends over for a barbecue in the backyard, still not allowed in Dallas County. But the more people that do that, it's just unknown what that does to the curve. And we probably won't know that until, 10 days from now or so, when the decline that we should have seen is either here or it isn't here. No.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the partial confusion just with everybody. The governor's order is opening things up, but you still have the safer at home policy here in Dallas County. So that's something.
So,
Can you touch
yeah,
on a little bit about
sure.
that, just to make sure we're clarified every week?
Yeah, anything that the governor has specifically opened is open. There's nothing in the Dallas County order that says the governor says one thing, but we say something different. The only addition to the governor's openings in Dallas County is that his suggestions are requirements. Things outside of his order. So, for instance, the governor could have said, if he wanted to, I'm letting my safer at home order expire as scheduled, and I'm restricting other cities and counties from also having a safer at home order. He didn't do that, and he was very specific on what he wanted to do. He said, "Hey, do like Dallas County. Don't fine or jail for a mask. Don't do like another county that has a fine for a mask." But he stayed silent on whether or not there could be orders that restrict who uses the trail on a certain day, whether you have to stay 6 foot apart while you're using the walking and whatnot, whether you can have non-economic group meetings, like all of you get together for a outdoor chess tournament at the park, or a backyard barbecue, or 50 people to do spontaneous yoga in the park. That was silent. And so what we said is that order that's been in place, since May 22nd or March 22nd in Dallas County, extends through May 15th on those things, those non-economic things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. And Judge, we're once again out of time. Can you give us a couple, 2 or 3 pointers on last messages so we'll all remember?
Sure. Here's the key things to do to stay safe, okay? Which really comes down to 4 things, okay? One is avoid unnecessary group settings, okay? So if you don't have to go into a group setting, avoid that. When you go into the group setting, keep your 6 foot distancing. And then when you're at an essential or reopened business, or you're on public transportation, wear your face covering. And then the last thing is wash those hands pretty regularly. That's the best things that you can do according to CDC, public health docs, to keep safe, okay? And so all of those questions you may come into, should we go do X, or at my business, can I do Y? If you think about avoiding group settings to the extent possible, so that might mean, should I bring my employee back to work at her office if she can telecommute at home? Well, if you're avoiding group settings as much as possible, you might want to leave her telecommuting, right? And 6 foot distance, face covering, washing the hands. If you think of those 4 things, you probably can answer almost all of your questions about what you want to do this weekend. And one last thing I'll tell you, the Public Health Committee is coming up with a simple kind of red light, green light, yellow light sort of a deal to answer the question of when would the infectious disease chiefs, the epidemiology chiefs at the hospitals, and the public health chiefs go into a touch service like a nail salon or a hair salon, When's it safe to go to a smaller group setting? And when is it safe to go to a larger group setting? And that wouldn't be necessarily a date. That would be, we need to see this type of a decline for 14 days, and then you can go do something. And then every day we'll update our website as to how we're doing on that decline. So that may make it easier for you. That's the difference between the governor says the law allows you to do it. And I know there are a lot of you that want to know, but when would the doctor say it's advisable for me to do it? And so we're going to have that for you hopefully very soon. I'm trying to really push them to hurry on that.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Jenkins. And just to recap, make sure you go to the Dallas County website for the loan program that the judge has talked about. If you're having problems with PPP, reach out to the county or reach out to the chamber. We will help you. From what I understand last night, there's still money left in this current round, so make sure you're applying. And if you need any help with banks, we can always help you out. And keep an eye on the Dallas County website on the judge's orders, especially as we open up businesses. And if you're getting ready to open business, look at the governor and look at our county website and get ready now. There's a lot of things you can do now to prepare. So once again, Judge, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the Blue Angels. For everybody, the Blue Angels will be flying over, leaving McKinney at 11, should be over Irving about 11:10 to 11:15, then heading to Fort Worth. So
And when do they get to downtown Dallas?
They're leaving McKinney at 11. They fly pretty fast, so you might want to be prepared about 11. So
Okay.
they should be down there by 11:08 or so.
Great. Thank you so much.
Get ready. Thank you, Judge, and everybody stay safe, wash your hands, social distance, and we will open safely. That's what we've been saying here in Irving-Las Cleanest, and thank you so much for being on the call, and have a good week.
Thanks, everyone.